I'm talking to Thomas Lukaszuk, who is the head of Forever Canadian, which is, I'll let him explain it to you. We've done some interviews with Thomas before. This is a big deal in Alberta. We want a little bit of an update on the campaign. Welcome to the interview, Thomas.
Thank you for having me again. Appreciate it.
For those folks who aren't familiar with what you're doing, give us a very brief explanation.
Well, for our first time in the history of Alberta, and frankly in the history of Canada, we are running a petition to keep Alberta in Canada. So it is Elections Alberta sanctioned petition that requires of us to garner almost 300,000 signatures from electors in Alberta, so people over 18, citizens living in Alberta, asking the question, do you agree that Alberta should remain in Canada? And we had 90 days to collect these 300,000 signatures, but in essence, we need about 400,000 because, good percentage will be disqualified. People make mistakes and things of that nature. So it never happened in the history of this country. Once we get that 300,000, this will be the biggest petition ever. So it's a monumental effort. This piece of legislation that governs it, called the Citizens Initiative Act, has been designed to make it difficult for citizens to pass legislation or bring initiatives like this into place. So it's an uphill battle, but we're getting there.
So just to be clear, the UCP government of Premier DanielleSmith tabled legislation that would make it easier to bring forward referenda.
Can I correct you at this point?
Yes.
It was actually earlier. It was actually Jason Kenney who was having a real hard time with a contingent of his members of legislature and supporters with COVID. They didn't want masks. They didn't want vaccinations. They didn't want to be locked up. And they wanted him to be rogue, premier, and sort of abandon all those public health initiatives. So Kenney did what I think was then politically smart. He says, well, if you don't like this, you pass a law and that will absolve you of wearing masks and everything. And he made the rules extremely difficult, knowing that they would never be able to reach that threshold. So that's the law that I am living by. But as soon as I filed my application for a petition, DanielleSmith, also a United Conservative Party premier, changed the rules, and she made them actually a lot easier because she anticipated that separatists would be filing a petition asking for Alberta to separate. So we're under the old rules.
And just to be clear, Premier Smith has said that she might entertain putting a referendum question on the next election ballot, correct?
Well, that's what she says, but she doesn't have to, because the petition that I filed gives her an opportunity to do the right thing and not to have a referendum. Majority of Albertans don't want a referendum. By far, majority of Albertans just simply want to stay in Canada, and they're asking the premier to focus on other provincial issues. But if she chooses to have a referendum, she can. My petition gives her an opportunity to actually bring this question before the legislature and have all members of legislature vote on it. But I think she may not want to do that because in her own caucus and in her own party, she has separatists. So that would sort of expose, the differences within her caucus. So she may end up going to a referendum.
Right. And to be clear, there have been a number of polls that have been done on this, and they're actually quite consistent that support for separatism in Alberta is like the low 20%. It's not, and the support for staying in Canada is generally 40 points higher. So it would be in the 60%. So yeah. The only thing driving this is the separatists in her caucus, really.
And in her party. So even though I agree with this 20%, and that 20% actually could be further broken down. There are 10% of Albertans, as we are noticing, that would today sign on the dotted line and leave Canada. Now, that 10% is also further subdivided between those who would like to join the United States and those who would like to create their own country. Then on top of that 10%, there is another 10%, which makes it 20, And those are people who are willing to entertain the idea of separation as a bargaining tool or as something to think about, but they would not sign, on the proverbial dotted line right away. So there is a spectrum of commitment to separatism within that 20%.
How is the campaign going? Do we have any preliminary numbers on the number of signatures that you've collected so far?
Well, as we're recording this today, being Thursday, we are starting to pull the first batch of petitions from our petition signature collectors. So we will know more or less where we're at within the next 10 days or so. But if it's of any indication, we do have now 5,000 signature collectors across the province. So if every single one of them gets 60, 70 signatures, we're good. But keep in mind, we don't have that satisfaction. So we are running as if we were 100,000 signatures behind, and we will do this until the last day. Because not only do we need more than 300,000, because the chief electoral officer will probably disqualify some signatures because, people make mistakes, don't completely fill out the petition or whatever the case may be. Plus, our goal is not just to meet the minimum threshold, even though it's very high, but we want to send a strong signal, not only to Alberta's government, but frankly to the rest of Canada and to the world, that Alberta is going nowhere, that this is a safe place to invest, and businesses don't have to worry about any political instability.
Thomas, I follow you on social media, and I've seen I don't know how many posts about you posing with petition with signature collectors, and you have some great stories. Why don't you tell us a few of them?
It's amazing. First of all, I don't think there ever was a campaign that had 5,000 volunteers across the province working independently, collecting signatures or anything else. So that in itself is unprecedented. But the grassroots nature of this, it is so organic that we don't really manage this campaign. Our signature collectors collect signatures the way they see fit, and they organize themselves in town. So, we have people in parking lots, in the middle of traffic circles, in front of churches, and you name it. One of the funniest one was a couple took canoes, or sorry, kayaks, I should say, and they were kayaking in the middle of a lake to boats and getting people to sign petitions on in the middle of a lake on boats. And they gathered actually quite a few signatures doing that. So people are very creative. Some are door knocking, some are setting up tables, some are welcoming people to their houses. Some, actually quite a few, using their own cars and fuel, are driving to people and senior homes and other places to collect signatures. So there's a full spectrum of how people collect it. But what I find interesting is that these signature collectors are actually spending a lot of their own money, not only on fuel, but they're decorating these tables, they're buying flags, they're promoting the events. Some actually even put up ads in local newspapers out of their own initiative. Again, it's unprecedented, but I think it's motivated by several things. A love for Canada, obviously, but also Albertans are getting tired of negativism. They want to latch on to something that's positive, to vote for, not against something. And Albertans are also tired of the image that we have created for ourselves in the rest of Canada and abroad, and want to send a strong message saying, look, we're no different than any other province. We love this country, and we're solid.
On that note, Thomas, I'll say the same thing I said last interview. Good luck.
Thank you so much. We'll need
The
it.
rest of Canada is pulling for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Markham.